Okay, if you would, let's go to page 12 in Bill's story. I hope now that we've looked at Bill's story, everybody's seen whether it's your story too, whether you're a man, whether you're a woman, whether you're young or old, how much you drank or didn't drink, the circumstances of your life. I hope we're all beginning to see the operation of the disease in a human being underneath the circumstances. And this man, obviously, he was quite sick and in a hopeless condition. And medicine couldn't help him, psychiatry couldn't help him. He was married, his wife loved him, he had friends. I'm sure people hugged him. I'm sure people said, hey, it's going to be okay. And what happened to this guy? None of that worked. What did we learn in the doctor's opinion? That frothy emotional appeal seldom suffices. A lot of us think that love is going to solve the problem. If we look in our own experience, most of us have either loved or been loved somewhere along the line. It doesn't solve the problem. If you're an alcoholic, the fact that I don't love myself isn't my problem. I've got a disease. Okay, so here Bill was drunk, and a guy with 60 days came and talked to him about a spiritual solution. And we looked pretty thoroughly at the struggle he had to become open-minded, and what it took for him to begin to accept the condition that he was in and to do something about it. So if you go to page 12, in the second to last paragraph, Bill he went through his own struggle, and he said, thus was I convinced. Thus was I convinced that I need to deal with my feelings. Thus was I convinced that I don't love enough. Thus was I convinced that if I just get in touch with my better self. What does your book say? Thus was he convinced of what? Of God. When we want him enough. See? So we got to start asking ourselves, am I convinced, and is that what I want? Does that sound like it's the solution? And that's what chapter 2 that we're going to go into today is all about. So thus was I convinced that God is concerned with us humans when we want him enough. Long last I saw, I felt, and I believed, scales of what and what fell from my eyes. Pride and prejudice. See? So two things he mentions right there had covered up the way he was looking at all this. And as the scales of pride and prejudice fell from his eyes, it says a new world came into view. And go to the next paragraph, it says the real significance of my experience in the cathedral burst upon me. For a brief moment I had needed and wanted God. See, that's something that we all need to begin to ask ourselves. See, we may recognize the need and not want. The word denial gets thrown around a lot out in treatment land. The denial is generally based on the obsession. We're going to learn about that today. Some of us deny the problem, and others of us deny the solution. And if you're somebody who's been in AA for a while and haven't found a solution, you might look at that. You may admit you have a problem and still be in denial about what the solution actually is. So he says, for a brief moment I had needed and wanted God. There had been a humble willingness to have him with me, and he came. But soon the sense of his presence had been blotted out by what? Worldly clamor. Okay, so the reason we gave you the handout this morning, everybody get one of those sheets that says worldly clamors on the top? It's just something that you can look at in your own experience, see if any of that makes sense to you. Where do those things go on, inside you or outside you? All mine go on inside. So Bill's now talked about three things, that had kept him blind to ever finding a solution. And they were his pride, his prejudice, which is his old ideas, and all these worldly clamors. Has everybody seen, a bingo game or one of the state lotteries somewhere? They have this big plexiglass sphere, and there's a lot of balls in there, numbered 1 through whatever it is, 66. Then they turn on the machine, and all of a sudden these balls start, going like this inside of there. Okay, so imagine, that the sphere is your mind. Okay, and each of these balls, one of these worldly clamors and an old idea. Okay, so somebody walks up, see, with a red ball, see, that says God, and just sticks it in the machine. Okay, see, so now you got God going on with all this other stuff. It'd be pretty hard to pick out, see, one thing in the middle of all that turmoil. See, does that make sense to you? See, as long as we got pride and prejudice and worldly clamors going on in us all the time, all these insecurities and fears and other things that we're trying to solve, it's pretty difficult for us to find a solution, see, to the problem of alcoholism. See? So, when someone has pride, is this an inside or an outside thing? When they have prejudice, is that an inside or an outside thing? And worldly clamors, all this other stuff that we all have going on, is that inside or outside? So where is the problem? See, what is it that keeps us blind? See, doesn't let us see, understand. See, and so, see, a lot of us, we conclude after some period of time, at least it's my experience, see, I started to think I was kind of stupid. Once I began to understand, all this stuff that was going on, it's pretty hard to learn or to see or to do anything when you got all this junk going on inside of you. So you might take a look and see if maybe that has been a difficulty in the learning process of recovery for you. Okay? 3 things: pride, prejudice, and worldly clamors. Okay, so Bill had to become open-minded, start looking at all that. The solution he found, goes down on page 13 there. He immediately did what? Took the steps while he was detoxing in the hospital. Over on page 14, right in the middle, what happened as a result of that? Spiritual awakening occurred. And the beginnings of a change in his way of living and thinking down towards the bottom of page 14. Page 15 is a pretty good description of the first 3 or 4 years of what happened to him after his spiritual experience. He wasn't well and wonderful, and he didn't walk on water. He still had trouble. He called it waves of self-pity and resentment. And he had to work with others and do all that kind of stuff. And the second half of the page talks about the new point of view that was granted to him simply as a result of having worked the steps. And that's all about what? Other people. So the story started out with all that I stuff that we found on page 2, and ended up with him having a totally different or revolutionized point of view towards the world that he lived in. You might remember the word suddenly from the doctor's opinion. Dr. Shilker said that suddenly this can happen in somebody's life, but what is required to bring it about? Bill had to do some work. A lot of people in AA think that Bill got his spiritual experience free. He didn't have to work any steps. He just wandered around and God struck him sober. And then he made up the steps and told us to do it. It didn't work that way. He actually did do the same things that we are being required to do. So, one of the things that happens in AA is, cliches and things, and you hear this, don't leave 5 minutes before the miracle happens. Anybody ever heard that? Wait for the miracle? Work for the miracle. Work for the miracle, not wait for the miracle. There's another old business kind of cliche, you may have heard this. It says, all things cometh to he who waiteth, as long as he who waiteth worketh like hell while he waiteth. And there is, results come from action, not from inaction. Okay, so now let's go over to page 17. Let's look at the chapter title. This book fascinates me. Even the chapter titles are interesting. There is a what? Notice it doesn't say there's an answer. How many people in here have been to shrinks, therapists, counselors, and all that looking for the answer? Anybody find the answer? The answer doesn't exist. There's no such thing as the answer. That's a psychological idea, psychiatric kind of idea. If you just find this one horrible thing that happened to you and altered the course of your life back when you were 2 years old, then you're going to be normal. Anybody thought that, believed that? That's the idea I always got from psychology and psychiatry. that sooner or later I was going to find the answer. And as soon as I found the answer, then I was going to be normal and okay, and I'd probably be able to drink safely. I wouldn't be so screwed up. The book tells me that there's a solution, see, and a solution is the answer. See, the solution is a spiritual experience and life based on spiritual principles. See, this is an ongoing, all day, every day, see, solution for the rest of my life. Okay, what does the article adjective a in front of solution mean? One. Everybody see that? See, it doesn't say there's 100 solutions, or here's how to come up with your own solution. See, or take what you like, leave the rest. There it is. See, there is a solution. See, to what? This hopeless condition that we're talking about. Okay. First word is we. Who's the we? Of Alcoholics Anonymous. No. Thousands of men and women. How many men we got in here? How many women we got in here? Okay. See, so we got men and women, see, in here who were once, see, stockbrokers like Bill, who once drank as much as Bill. See? Is that what it says? See, what did they have in common with Bill? See, they recognized the hopelessness of their condition, see, regardless of the circumstances. And that's why I asked you to, write your name at the beginning of Bill's story and see if you could see that going on in your life. So thousands of men and women who were once just as hopeless as Bill. Nearly all are in recovery. Nearly all hope to recover. Nearly all have learned how to love themselves and deal with their feelings. What does your book say? Nearly all have what? Recovered. Anybody remember what recover means?
Restored back to health.
Restored back to health. Okay. Nearly all have recovered. They have solved the drink problem. Okay. See, if we're sitting in a meeting, see, and somebody walks in and they say, boy, I needed this meeting. I'm glad you guys are here. Okay. I'm so grateful for Alcoholics Anonymous because I felt like drinking today. I've been sober 6 years, but boy, I'm screwed up today. Is that somebody who has solved the drink problem? Okay. There's somebody who's still got a problem. Okay. So someone without a solution. Okay. See, now I'm not saying meetings are bad. You shouldn't go to meetings. See, but see, what we need to recognize is see, drinking is still a problem in that person's life. See, and the book is telling us that there's a solution to that. See, that will disappear, be removed from your life. Okay. So they have solved the drink problem. So you got to ask yourself, see, do you believe that? See, or have you come to believe that there really isn't a solution? Okay, that you're going to be in recovery all your life? See, all that kind of stuff. We are average Americans. Anybody above average in here? All sections of this country and many of its occupations are represented, as well as many political, economic, social, and religious backgrounds. Look around the room. See, don't we have men and women in here? We probably got Republicans and Democrats. We probably got some Baptists and some Catholics and other kinds of things. See, we've probably got people who are employed and some people who aren't. See, we've got all kinds of stuff in this room. Okay? It says, we are people who normally would not mix. Look around. How many people in the room would you drink with? We're people who normally wouldn't mix. Okay, but there exists among us a fellowship, a friendliness, and an understanding which is indescribably wonderful. We're like the passengers of a great liner the moment after rescue from shipwreck, when camaraderie, joyousness, and democracy pervade the vessel from steerage to captain's table. Word steerage means the cheapest accommodations on an ocean liner. Remember when Bill wrote this, they didn't have, global airline travel. Everybody went on ships in those days. So captain's table means, first class. Steerage means you're eating bologna sandwiches with the crew down by the engine room. Okay, see, so here's everybody on the ship, the people paying a bunch and the people on the cheap seats, and the ship hits an iceberg and sinks. All right, and everybody gets rescued. See, but while you're in the water, okay, there you are, treading water. See, I'm the guy down in steerage, and Dave here, see, is in the water. He's wearing a tuxedo. He was just in the process of eating filet mignon with the captain, see, when we went down. See, so Dave and I'm wearing blue jeans and a t-shirt. He's wearing a tuxedo. Does the water care? See, water is very democratic. See, and the water would say the same thing to me that it said to Dave. See, it doesn't say which one of you guys has the most money, which one of you has the political connections and the best job. See, the water says to both of us, I'm cold and I'm deep. See? And that's it. Hope you can swim. See, all social distinctions are gone, see, as soon as we're in the water. Okay, see, so then we get rescued. All right, now he and I, who didn't have anything in common before, now have something in common. See, this calamity that just befell us, see, and that we got out of. See, and we're liable to become friends, and we may remain friends for a long time as a result of that. See, so where we didn't have anything in common, see, now we got something in common, and based on that, see, something can happen. Okay, does that make sense? See, so that's the fellowship in Alcoholics Anonymous. And that's what they're talking about here. See, that's the meetings and all the activities you see on the board. See, that's the coffee afterwards, the dances, the barbecues, the hugs, all that. See, that's all the fellowship. All right, see, and so that's a very good thing. See, that does exist among us, and that's a good thing. All right, it says, unlike the feelings of the ship's passengers, however, our joy in escape from disaster does not subside. Subside means go away, as we go our individual ways. The feeling of having shared in a common peril, see, we're all in the water, is one element in the powerful cement which binds us. Okay, so that's talking about the fellowship, but let's all read the next sentence together out loud. But that in itself would never have joined us together as we're now joined. What does that mean? See, that's not the solution. See, so the meetings and the fellowship and the activities and all that, see, they are important, they are wonderful, they are good. We all have that in common, but that ain't it. All right? See, what's the chapter title here? There is a solution. Okay? So the first thing they tell us about the solution is that the meetings and the fellowship ain't it. It's just one element in it. Okay? So what is the solution? Next paragraph. The tremendous fact. How many facts? One. Okay? Tremendous fact. For a couple of us, the old-timers, the holier people, the book thumpers. Tremendous fact for every one of us is that we have discovered a what? Common solution. Okay, now we got another handout to give you, and I'd like you to take a look at this. Let's just take a couple of minutes. Everybody read down both the columns on this thing that Dave's going to pass out now. See, a common solution. See, thousands of men and women who were once just as hopeless as Bill, they've all recovered. They all have a common solution. It's not a matter of take what you like and leave the rest. It's not a matter of cliches. What we're going to see as we continue on into this paragraph is the words absolute agreement. And many of our meetings today, there isn't any agreement. It can be very confusing, especially when we're brand new, as to what is this thing that's going on, because everybody's got their own program. Okay, so over in the left-hand column, we see a lot of things that we hear quite often in meetings, and it's all a matter of take what you like, leave the rest, do this, da-da-da-da-da. See, we don't have absolute agreement on any of that. Okay? But stuff on the right, see, is all about the program of recovery and the 12 steps. And that's what they're talking about in terms of a solution upon which we can absolutely agree. Clear cut. There are directions. See, there are steps to take. They produce definite, observable results. There's evidence in people's lives. Sobriety results from that. Okay, so go back to the bottom of page 17 now. The tremendous fact for every one of us is that we have discovered a common solution. We have a way out upon which we can do what? Absolutely agree. Notice how wishy-washy the term absolute agreement is. Is that pretty wishy-washy and vague? Upon which we can absolutely agree and upon which we can join in brotherly and harmonious action. Let me give you an example of that. If Kristen and I went on a 12-step call. Let's say Craig is in a motel and he's drunk. And he calls the club here, and the only people here are Kristen and I. So she and I go down to the motel. And there's Craig, and he's screwed up, and he's angry, and he's belligerent. His life has just collapsed. He doesn't know what's going on. He's never been to AA before. Kristen and I walk in, see, she's got a big book under her arm, see, and I'm full of cliches. See, so she starts trying to talk to Craig in terms of the experience of drinking and the disease underneath it. See, to get him to understand that there is a problem. She starts telling him about the phenomenon of craving, the disease of alcoholism, the obsession, her own experience of why she could never stop drinking, what happened to her when she drank. And I keep interrupting. Wait a minute. See, we're going to hug you. See, we're going to love you back to health. We got dances. We got barbecues. See, all that kind of stuff. See, I keep interrupting what she's doing. See, are she and I joined in brotherly and harmonious action working with Craig? No. See, we can't join in brotherly and harmonious action. She's carrying the message, see, and I'm doing something else. Okay, now who is really going to suffer as a result of that? See, he's going to look at us like, what's wrong with you guys? See? You're talking two different languages. See? He's totally ignorant of the program at that point, so he doesn't know anything. See? So he's not going to know what's right, what's wrong. He's going to have no basis to make a judgment on it. Okay, does that make sense? So all we're going to do, see, is confuse him. See, and I'm the one really responsible for the confusion. See, because Kristen's doing it right. See, she's really 12-stepping the guy. Does that make sense? See, and we need to be able to join in brotherly and harmonious action, see, when we're working with newcomers. See, and literally, you know, if I went to Nova Scotia and had never been there before, walked into an AA club, see, and there was one guy there, and the phone rang, and this guy says, there's a 12-step call, will you go? And I'd hop in the car with him. See, and he and I, having never met, never talked, ought to be able to walk into the motel and 12-step the Nova Scotian drunk, see, and tell him exactly the same thing. But I came from Albuquerque and he came from Nova Scotia and we had never met before. See, but both of us ought to be able to speak exactly the same message to the drunk in the motel in Nova Scotia. Does that make sense? See, ought to be able to go around the world, do that. See, speak in the same language. Brotherly and harmonious action. Something in common solution. Okay, so we have a way out upon which we can absolutely agree and upon which we can join in brotherly and harmonious action, and this is the great news. So what's the great news? Is it about the meetings or is it about the common solution? Yeah, see, this is the great news this book carries to those who, what's the next word?
Suffer.
What does suffer mean?
Endure.
Endure. Endure. No choice. See, who suffer, see, from alcoholism. Top of page 18. In the doctor's opinion, see, what did they tell us? We must come to believe that the body of the alcoholic is quite as abnormal as his mind, that it's a disease. So now what do they start pounding on here? Top page 18. An illness of this sort. And we have come to believe it at what? See, ask yourself, do you believe that? Are you convinced? We need to be honest with ourselves. See? An illness of this sort, and we've come to believe it, an illness involves those about us in a way no other human sickness can. See? So in that first sentence we see illness, and sickness. See, a lot of us carry around these ideas that this is still a moral issue, a matter of right and wrong. See? You can get educated out of it, a set of new ideas will stop it, you can hug it back to hell, see? And all that kind of stuff. See, it's all based on it's not really a disease. See, if it's a disease, see, it's serious, right? Okay, if a person has cancer, all are sorry for him and no one is angry or hurt. Now, I've got some experience of being around a person with cancer. Anybody else in here had any experience? Yeah, quite a few of us. See, well, look at your own experience then, based on what he just said. See, when people get cancer, do they suffer? Everybody's seen that, right? See, they suffer a lot. See, do they get pissed? See? Do they cause problems? See? Is it expensive? See? Can it, really get in the way of what goes on in a family, in a relationship, in a marriage, and, end plans? So cancer can do a lot of stuff. See? But did you sit there and point a finger at that man or woman and say, you stupid asshole, you chose to have cancer? See, we don't do that. See, when it comes to cancer or leukemia or muscular dystrophy or AIDS or any of that, see, people don't choose that. See, I mean, they suffer. Their suffering involves other people. See, it causes great disruptions, economic insecurity, all kinds of stuff, same things that alcoholism can do. See, but since we all recognize that they're sick, see, we don't judge them on that basis. See, we do whatever we do to help. See, we may not like it, but, you know, we don't sit there and say, you jerk, you're choosing to do that. Okay, see, because we recognize that it's a disease. Does that make sense? All right, read the next sentence. See, but not so with the alcoholic illness. Not so. See, what do we all do? We judge ourselves, we judge other alcoholics, other people are judging us, you're choosing that, da-da-da-da. So not so with the alcoholic illness, for with it there goes annihilation. To annihilate means to totally destroy. So for with it there goes annihilation of all the things worthwhile in life. It engulfs, and the word engulfs means to swallow up. So it engulfs all. What does the word all mean? Yeah, nothing excluded. So it engulfs all whose lives touch the who? See how that word keeps popping up? Sufferer. Okay, it brings puking and sweats and shaking and headaches and... is that what your book says? No, it brings misunderstanding, fierce resentment, financial insecurity, disgusted friends and employers, warped lives of blameless children. The word warped means to bend and twist. Something, you ever seen a warped board? It's bent and twisted. Okay. So warped lives of blameless children, sad wives, husbands obviously, and parents, and anyone can increase the list. Do you think you could increase the list? Anybody in here think you could increase the list if you took a look? Okay, now what we're going to do, there's some pretty amazing things in this paragraph, so we're going to look at a couple of them. So everybody get a pen, an underliner, and a couple of pieces of paper. Okay, write the words, what's worthwhile up at the top. What's worthwhile? And now what the book just told us is that, see, people don't get all that angry at people who have cancer, but they do at people with alcoholism. And why? Because with alcoholism there goes annihilation of all the things worthwhile in life. So what we want to do is take a look at your own system of values or the way you look at life and just make a list of what's worthwhile to you. Just write it down. What is worthwhile to you? This isn't a test. You don't have to read it out loud or show it to anybody else. So we just do this so we can all look at our own experience. What is worthwhile? Okay, everybody got a list? It doesn't take a whole long time to make this. You might want to put some more work into it later, but just wanted to start taking a look. Now, looking at the things on your list, how much of that are you going to keep if you return to drinking? See, will alcoholism, annihilate that? Anybody having trouble getting those things even though you're sober? See, my list was not achievable even when I wasn't drinking. That's how badly this had progressed in me. So you see, what we're trying to do is to notice that these things that the book is saying, remember they said it's an account of their experiences? And so we want to look at our own experience to see if our experience matches their experience. See, and that's how we verify it and find out whether it's true or not. Okay, and the next sentence says, it engulfs all whose lives touch the sufferers. So, get another piece of paper. On this piece of paper, right in the middle, draw a circle that says me. And around that, draw 5 lines and circles so it looks kind of like this. I'm here for me. Everybody got that? Psychologists tell us that as human beings go through their lives, see, most of us come to know somewhere between 2,000 and 2,500 people as we live our lives. And those are people that we call friends and acquaintances and things like that. But of that 2,000 or 2,500 people, see, we actually have somewhere between 5 and 15, this is just an average, of what are termed close, intimate, and personal relationships. So we know a lot of people, 2,000, 2,500 maybe, but people who are actually very close to us, see, are kind of a small number. See? So you may have more than 5, and you may have more than 15, you may have less. For purposes of this demonstration, we're just going to use the number 5, and that's why I asked you to draw 5 circles around the circle that says you. You're a human being. Around you, we got these 5 close, intimate, personal relationships. So take your pen and write the names of 5 people close to you in these circles. And I can put my ex-wife here. Her name was Candy. There's a friend named Ben. A boss named Jean. My mom. And my sister Pam. Let's put 5 names there. People that have been rather close to you in your life. Got the names? Okay, now we get to these circles out here. What do we find in those circles? We find another human being out there. See, in each one of these. Now, if psychology is right, see, they would have, on the average, what? 5 people around them also. So just draw 4 more lines and circles. You'd be the 5th one around each of these people. Okay, out in these outer circles, you may or may not know the names that go in those. It really doesn't make any difference. See, but we would find what in this outer circle here? Another human being? Okay, and around that human being, how many lines and circles would there be? Okay, so just so you get the idea, just put 4 lines around each of these outer circles. And you can see that this thing just keeps spreading out. And if you begin to look at your own experience, you can start to see some overlaps and some crisscrosses. All that kind of stuff. Maybe family members, relatives, friends, co-workers, all kinds of stuff. It starts to look a little bit like a nuclear explosion, doesn't it? Okay, put the pens down and grab your underliners. Let's go back to the middle circle that says me. Okay, now they started talking at the beginning of this paragraph about an illness. An illness of this sort, we've come to believe that an illness involves those about us in a way no other human sickness can. Now, we have come at this point to understand something about alcoholism in the way they are presenting the information. See, do you think, or do you know at this point that you got it? See, are you suffering from what we're talking about? See, based on what we've seen so far. If so, take your underliner, see, and color in this me circle right here. Yep, that's me. Okay, and then it says that this disease, see, engulfs all whose lives touch the sufferer. All right, well, I just admitted I was a sufferer. Now on my diagram, how many lives touch mine directly? 5. Okay? Now, if the disease does engulf all whose lives touch the sufferers, what happens to these people? Okay, so start asking yourself, see, has what's been going on with you with drugs and alcohol, see, engulfed, see, and brought misery and resentment and misunderstanding and stuff, see, to other people in your life? See, it's pretty clear to me, see, that my disease did engulf all of these people, and actually there were more. Okay, so now you got sufferers out here, right? This person's now a sufferer. But the disease engulfs all whose lives touch the sufferers. How many lives touch this one? What happens now? And you don't quite understand this. See, there are a number of programs that have to deal with alcoholism with people who don't drink. And they're called Al-Anon and Adult Children of Alcoholics and stuff like that. And that's all the programs of recovery for people who have been engulfed and have the disease of alcoholism, see, and yet they don't drink alcohol the way an alcoholic does. Right? But they have the disease of alcoholism. So you just look at your own experience and then ask yourself, where does this stop? Kind of an interesting question, isn't it? All right, now we want to ask ourselves another question. Everybody done with this thing right here? Okay, now if you remember from the doctor's opinion at the bottom of page 26, where he was talking about the cycle of drinking, he said that men and women drink essentially because they like the effect produced by alcohol, and that the sensation is so elusive that while they admit it's harmful or injurious, they cannot after a time do what? Differentiate the true from the false. See? So that alcoholic thinks he's normal, see, and says this to himself or herself. Anybody said this to yourself?
Yes.
Is it true or is it false? Pretty amazing, huh? Oh, okay. What we have up on the board is I'm only hurting myself. Okay, how many people besides me believe that to be the truth at some point? Okay, see, a lot of us. That's what I thought. Where did I think that? Okay. Anybody see any of this going on while you're sober? Still suffering from the disease of alcoholism. People still getting engulfed, still all this other stuff. Okay, now I'm going to read the last sentence in the paragraph one more time. I'd like you not to look at your book, but at your diagram. Look at your diagram. The last sentence says, it, meaning alcoholism, which has now engulfed other people, it says, it brings misunderstanding. Looking at your diagram, do you see any misunderstanding in those relationships there? See, has there been any misunderstanding with any of those people? Has there been any fierce resentment there? Has there been any financial insecurity there, looking at your diagram? Is there any disgusted friends and employers on your diagram? Do you see any warped lives of blameless children? Do you see any sad wives, husbands, parents on your diagram? If you actually got a big sheet of paper and drew one of these out with everybody you ever knew, you think you could increase the list? Yeah. See, so what I want you to begin to see is that these are not just words on a piece of paper. Okay? See, we need to start looking into our own experience and begin to realize, see, the extent, see, of this problem, see, that for which we are looking for a solution. Okay, let's go to the next paragraph. It says, we hope this volume will inform and comfort those who are, see, that's us, who can now start to see it, or who may be affected. See? And then what does it say? There are many. See? Beginning to see why they say there are many. There's a lot of people who know they got a problem, and a lot of people wandering around in the world who don't have a clue, see what it is that's wrong in their lives. Okay, highly competent psychiatrists who have dealt with us have found it sometimes impossible to persuade an alcoholic to discuss his situation without reserve. The word without reserve means honestly and openly. All right, now, has anybody in here besides me ever been to a shrink, a therapist, a counselor, a psychologist, and lied to him? Right, see, so it's pretty true, see, that we don't discuss our situation without reserve, okay? Honestly, with those people. Okay, strangely enough, wives, parents, and intimate friends usually find us even more unapproachable than do the psychiatrist or the doctor. Now, I can give you an example out of my own experience. Now, here's my ex-wife. She and I were both seeing the same shrink at one point. Okay, so we'll call this circle that shrink. Her name was Ruth. All right. So, see, I'm out here and I'm talking to Ruth, and I'm lying to Ruth about my drinking and what's going on with my wife and all this kind of stuff. Okay, so, see, when I went home, see, I was less honest with my wife than I was with the shrink. Now, I lied to the shrink, see, but I was even more closed up with my wife. See, the closer you got to me, the more closed up I was. See, the closer people were to me, the less truth, see, I told them, see, the more threatened I felt. See, every now and then, at least when I was working, see, I might be out in a place like Seattle on a business trip. See, it's, let's say, Tuesday night, and I'm sitting in a bar getting hammered, see, and there's a guy sitting next to me, we'll call him Phil, see, and I strike up a conversation with Phil, see, and I'll tell this guy, Phil, all kinds of stuff that this lady I'm married to will never, ever hear. See, I'm never going to see this guy again. See, and he just goes off, he disappears. See, but the closer you get to me, the less you know about me. See, the more you're a stranger, see, and if you drink and all that, see, you know, I just pour it all out to this guy, dump it on him, go home, see, and tell her to fuck off. So does that make sense to you? Can you see that in your own experience? Strangely enough, see, people close to us find us even more closed up, unapproachable than do the shrinks, the doctors, and other kinds of people. Okay, now here comes a paragraph in italics. What do italics mean? Don't read this, skip it, it doesn't make any sense. We don't want to emphasize this at all, nor this. Okay, but the ex-problem drinker, underline ex-problem drinker. See, what does ex-problem drinker mean? Somebody with no problem. See? A recovered alcoholic, someone without any kind of problem. See, who has found his own program, who has learned how to love himself, who knows how to deal with his feelings, see? Who knows 600 cliches. Now, the ex-problem drinker, that's a recovered alcoholic who's found what? This solution. Who is properly armed with facts. See, not slogans, facts. About who? Himself. Now, where is he going to get these facts? Having worked the steps himself. Properly armed with facts about himself can generally win the entire confidence of another alcoholic in how long? A few hours. See, sometimes psychiatrists take years, see, simply in the process of trying to get enough confidence from their patients, see, to get something done. The ex-problem drinker has found this solution, see, and who knows what he's talking about, armed with facts about himself and can show, and can generally win the entire confidence of another alcoholic in how long? A few hours, see, sometimes a few minutes. It's pretty amazing. See, and this is the basis of one alcoholic talking with another. See, now, see, if you got 40 unrecovered alcoholics sitting in a room talking to each other, see, that's not recovery. When we talk about one alcoholic talking to another alcoholic, see, the assumption is, see, and stated quite clearly, that one of these guys or women is what? Recovered. See? And is talking the program of recovery, the method of recovery, to that other person. Okay? A gang of unrecovered people is a gang of unrecovered people. Okay? Does that make sense? Remember, this is italics. Don't pay any attention to this. Okay? So, until such an understanding is reached, what can happen? See? What's the relapse rate in Alcoholics Anonymous? About 90%. Maybe higher, probably higher. Okay? So what can we infer from that or see from that? Little or nothing got accomplished in 90% of the people who came in the door. Okay? It's kind of amazing. Okay? Until such an understanding is reached, little or nothing can be accomplished. Okay? That the man or the woman who is making the approach, so, you're going to see the word approach as we go through the book. And one of the things that's happening in Alcoholics Anonymous now is we like to sit in meetings and we say to ourselves, well, the newcomer needs to reach out. Okay? What does the word approach mean? Okay? And who's approaching who? That the man who's making the approach, okay, has had the same difficulty, that he obviously knows what he's talking about. What does obvious mean? Plain and clear. Okay? That his whole deportment, the word deportment means behavior or conduct. His whole deportment shouts at the new prospect that he's a man with a real answer, that he has no attitude of holier than thou, nothing whatever except a sincere desire to play God in your life. Is that what your book says? A sincere desire to do what? Be helpful. That there are no fees to pay, no axes to grind, no people to please. Anybody in here had trouble being a people pleaser in your life? See? You don't need to do that here. Okay? There are no people to please, no lectures to be endured. These are the conditions we have found most effective. After such an approach, many take up their beds and walk again. After such a what? Approach. Okay, none of us makes a sole vocation of this work. In other words, we don't do this for a living. Nor do we think its effectiveness would be increased if we did. We feel, now who's the we? It's a very important sentence. First 100 people. We feel that elimination of our drinking. Now what's the AA slang for elimination of drinking? Putting the plug in the jug. All right, so we feel that putting the plug in the jug, elimination of our drinking is what? But a beginning. Now, who felt that way? First 100 people. See? Now, underline, if you would, the next 5 words. It starts with the article adjective a. A. Much more important discussion. Uh-oh. Well, they do both start with a D, don't they? What's the difference between a discussion and a demonstration? Difference between real service and lip service, isn't it? A much more important demonstration of what? Our principles. See? Now, our meetings, principles. Our activities, principles. What are principles? That's what we see in the 12 steps. See? So, much more important than putting the plug in the jug is a demonstration of the principles where? Starts where? Number 1, where we live, our homes. Number 2, where we work. See? And number 3, our affairs. See? Now, meetings, see, are our affairs. Part of our affairs, anyway. See? So what's more important than our affairs? Where we live and where we work. See? Demonstrating spiritual principles. See? Number 1, where we live. Number 2, where we work. See? What we do for a living. And then in the rest of our affairs. Pretty clear to everybody? Much more important demonstration. Okay, all of us spend much of our spare time. See, it doesn't say a few of us do 12-step work. It says all of us spend much of our spare time watching videos, going to barbecues. No. In the sort of effort. Everybody know what effort means? Work. The W word. Oh, God. Work, which we are going to describe. A few are fortunate enough to be so situated that they can give nearly all their time to the work. Bill Wilson was one of those in the early days. If we keep on the way we are going, there's little doubt that much good will result, but the surface of the problem would hardly be scratched. Let's look at the world we lived in, or live in now. See, that sentence was written in 1938. See, published in 1939. See, but as we look at the society and the world that we live in, it looks like the problem of alcoholism and drug addiction is increasing. It's getting worse. See, so much good has resulted. See, as a result of what these guys did, these guys and these women. See, the surface of the problem is what? Hardly been scratched. Does that sound true? See, 55 years later, still true, looks like to me. Okay, those of us who live in large cities are overcome by the reflection. You know what reflection means? To think over, think it through. By the reflection that close by, hundreds are dropping into oblivion. When? Not every year, every day. A lot of people are dying from drugs and alcohol. Does that seem true to you? Many could, what's the next word? If they had the opportunity we have enjoyed. So, see, a lot of us, you know, we get this idea. We walk into Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm here for me. I'm the one who's most important. See, this is a selfish program. I'm a selfish person. I'm just going to die. See, I'm here for me. See, the book, see, is talking about working with others. See, and carrying this message. See, if I can't carry the message, then I can't help anybody. I just sit in meetings and I'm here for me. Okay? See, that means that if I didn't do the work I need to do, then there are people I'm going to meet who aren't going to get to enjoy the opportunity. See, because I didn't do it. See, and the same is true for you. See, so start to ask yourself. See, if you actually recover from your alcoholism, see, are you doing it just for you? Are you here just for you? Does that make sense to you? Doesn't make any sense to me. Altruism, the unselfish concern for who? Welfare of other people? Interesting, huh? Okay, so how then shall we present that which has been so freely given us? We have concluded to publish an anonymous volume. See, given the kind of people these were while they were drinking, see, anonymity at the level of this book is an amazing thing. An anonymous volume. Setting forth the problem as we see it. See, why do they set forth the problem first? Because if you don't understand it, the solution doesn't make any sense. We shall bring to the task our combined experience and knowledge. This should suggest a useful program for anybody who drinks too much. Is that what your book says? Anyone concerned with a drinking problem? Why is that? See, because other people besides the drinkers get engulfed by all this. Anybody here familiar with Al-Anon at all? See, what's the solution in Al-Anon? Huh? See, the real solution in Al-Anon is a 12-step program that leads to a spiritual awakening. The real solution in ACA is a 12-step program that leads to a spiritual awakening. The real solution in Narcotics Anonymous is a 12-step program that leads to a spiritual awakening. The real solution in OA, GA, is a 12-step program that leads to a spiritual awakening. See, we call those the other 12-step programs. See, that's the same program, different symptom, same program of recovery. Okay. Hang on. Wait for the break. All right, last paragraph. It says, of necessity, there will have to be a discussion of matters medical, psychiatric, social, and religious. See, why is it necessary to discuss matters medical, psychiatric, social, and religious? Because there's no medical solution to alcoholism. See, there is no psychiatric solution to alcoholism. There is no social program, see, that solves the problem of alcoholism. And how many people in here tried religion and stayed drunk? Besides me. Anybody? Okay. See, so it's a problem. So of necessity, we're going to have to discuss those things if we're going to be honest and take an open-minded look and investigation at this. Okay? We are aware that these matters are, from their very nature, controversial. Nothing would please us so much as to write a book which would contain no basis for contention or argument. I rather, when they wrote the book 55 years ago, Bill and Bob and the first 100 members, they were rather concerned with the religious point of view and the medical profession's point of view, psychiatry's point of view. I don't think they ever envisioned a time when there would be contention or argument about the book within Alcoholics Anonymous. See, Alcoholics Anonymous has never been attacked, see, by religion and science. See, there is some of that that's starting in the last few years. See, but the biggest contention and argument about the book, see, these days is within the program, not without. See, very interesting. I don't think they ever considered that that would be possible. Okay, it says, we shall do our utmost to achieve that ideal. Most of us sense that real tolerance of other people's shortcomings and viewpoints and a respect for their opinions are attitudes which make us more useful to others. You might underline those two words at the beginning of the sentence where it says real tolerance. Most of us sense that real tolerance. Now my experience with that is that I used to judge people, Dave's an asshole and I won't say anything. Okay, see, and as long as I kept quiet about my judgment, I called that tolerance. See, what that is silent scorn. You're an idiot, but I'm going to keep my mouth shut about it. See, that's not real tolerance. See, but I used to think it was real tolerance. See, as long as I just didn't say anything. See, but that's not real tolerance. See, that's called silent scorn. You might look at see if you got any experience with that. Okay, top of page 20 now. I'd like you please to underline and highlight the sentence we're about to read. It says, our very lives as what? Recovered alcoholics depend upon loving ourselves, going to meetings, dealing with our feelings, having an old-timer as a sponsor, 47 phone numbers in our wallet, getting off the cross, discussing our problems. Depend on what? A constant thought of others. Altruism, in other words, and how we may help meet their needs. See, action backing up that constant thought. See, now, the people who wrote the book, see, that's just a bald-faced statement of fact. See, and to them, the way they wrote it, see, they say their lives depend on that. See, they don't say staying sober depends on that. See, to them, this is a life or death matter. So you got to ask yourself, do they really mean that? Son of a gun, is that part of what's required here? Our very lives as ex-problem drinkers depend on our, what does the word constant mean? Thought, where does thought go on? Of who, me, how I'm going to get it, what I'm going to get, if I'm going to get enough of it, if I'm going to like it once I get enough of it, is it going to be big enough, red enough, sweet enough? How much of it am I going to get? How long do I get to keep it once I have it? How am I going to get rid of it if I don't like it? Constant thought of who? Others, and how we may help meet their needs. Okay, so please highlight the hell out of that, because we're going to come back to this sentence a bunch as we continue to go through the book. Okay, we're going to go through one more paragraph and take a break. It says, you may already have asked yourself why it is that all of us became so very ill from drinking. Doubtless you are curious. Ask yourself, are you curious? Doubtless you are curious. To discover how and why, in the face of expert opinion to the contrary, where was that in the doctor's opinion? What was that opinion? Among physicians, most chronic alcoholics are what? Doomed. See? That's a pretty expert contrary opinion. So in the face of expert opinion to the contrary, we have recovered. So here are doomed, hopeless alcoholics who have recovered from a hopeless condition of mind and body. If you are an alcoholic, ask yourself, am I? Do I think I am? Am I coming to a realization that maybe I am? If you are an alcoholic, see, who does what? Wants to get over it. See, tradition 3, the desire to stop drinking. So if you are an alcoholic who wants to get over it, you may already be asking, what time is the dance Saturday? See, what would you be asking if you're curious, see, about how you stop drinking? What do I have to think? What do I have to read? What do I have to, what's the last word? Do. See? Something needs to be done about the problem. Okay, we're going to start getting into that middle of this page after we take a break. Please put this definition down near the bottom of page 20, somewhere in the margin of your book on page 20. Definition of the word obsession. It's a recurring, persistent idea that is more powerful than and does not respond to reason. A recurring, persistent idea that is more powerful than and does not respond to reason. Everybody got it? Okay, let's go to the second paragraph on page 20 now. Question was, see, are you an alcoholic? Are you curious, see, as to what the solution is? What do I have to do? Okay, it's the purpose of this book to do what? Answer such questions specifically. Have any of you, spent any amount of time in AA trying to find someone, see, who could or would tell you what the steps meant and how to work them? See, I did that for a year in AA. See, hoping that somebody would talk about the steps and what it meant and how you did it and all that. See, it's the purpose of what? This book, to answer such questions, not with slogans or cliches. See, specifically. How is this done? How do you find this solution? Okay, now we shall tell you what we have done. Okay, before going into a detailed discussion, it may be well to summarize some points as we see them. How many times people have said to us, I can take it or leave it alone. Say, why can't Dave? Okay, why doesn't Michael drink like a gentleman or quit? Okay, Teresa can't handle her liquor. Okay, why doesn't Beverly try beer or wine? Virginia ought to lay off the hard stuff. Joseph's willpower must be weak. Roy could stop if he wanted to. She's such a sweet girl. I think Dennis would stop for her sake. And the doctor told Betty if she ever drank again, it would kill her, and there she is, all screwed up again. Okay. Has anybody heard that kind of stuff in your life? Has anybody ever said those kind of things to you? I can quit, why don't you? I used to be an alcoholic, but I quit, why don't you? See, why don't you just stop, just do a couple of joints, all that kind of stuff. Right? See, now, what happened as a result of those things being said to us? See, we did not respond to that. Okay, now Teresa's going to read the definition of the word respond for us.
Respond. Answer, reply, react to a stimulus, to show favorable reaction to medication.
We do not respond. Have any of you had a bunch of people in your life tell you that kind of stuff? See, after a while they get tired of telling you and they disappear. See, they give up. Everybody goes, shit, he's never going to change. See, that happened to me. See, after that happened to me, I would find myself drinking a lot, or at the end of a spree, and I would say those kind of things to myself. I am so screwed up. I got to get my shit together. My life is a wreck. I got to do that. And I say, I'm never going to drink again, and I'm going to pay my bills. I'm going to go to work, and I control this. Anybody ever done that? And then gone and gotten drunk again? See, right after you've just reasoned with yourself? See? So See, when other people talk to me, see, whether it's a wife, a parent, a doctor, a shrink, see, a treatment center counselor, my AA sponsor, see, or myself, see, something is going on that I just don't respond to it. I always go back and drink again. Anybody got that experience? Okay. See, we do not respond. See, so how many times people have said that kind of stuff to us? So look at your own experience. Next paragraph. It says, now these are commonplace observations on drinkers which we hear all the time. Back of them is a world of what? Ignorance. See, not stupidity. Ignorance and misunderstanding about what? The disease of alcoholism. Okay? Now I'm going to make a very important mistake in the next sentence. See if you can catch me. We see that these expressions refer to people whose thinking is very different from ours. What was the mistake I made? Word thinking isn't in the sentence, is it? What's the word that's there? What reaction are they talking about? The reaction to alcohol. Their thinking is very different because their reaction is very different. Let me give you an example. I could go back to school and get a college degree, which I don't have, and then I could go to medical school, and I could become an obstetrician, and I could do my specialization in obstetrician, and then, see, I could go into private practice, and I could do that for 10 or 15 years. And then I could go back to medical school and become an instructor at a medical school, see, in obstetrics and gynecology. And based on all that experience, I could then write a textbook, see, which could then be used at all the medical schools that there are. See, I could be the world's foremost expert on obstetrics and gynecology, and yet I don't have the faintest idea what it's like to have a baby. And I never will. Can't have the experience. See? So I could be an expert, see, and yet never have the experience. Does that make sense? Okay. See, we got a lot of experts in alcoholism out there running around, see, who don't have the experience of what it's like to be an alcoholic and never will. See? And when have you ever had anybody been in treatment or counseling, about this? See, and you know how they always talk with their hands and they get warm and creamy and they say, tell me how you feel, tell me how you really feel, I understand. See, and you're sitting there going, no, you don't. No, you don't. See, how do you know they don't know? See, they're going, I know, I understand. And I'm going, no, you don't. See, you ain't been where I've been. See, it's the value of one alcoholic talking to another. See, someone who experiences the same reaction to alcohol, see, that I do, see, when I drink. See, so people who say this kind of stuff, see, aren't saying it because they're stupid, and they aren't saying it because they're mean or any of that. See, but they simply do not understand what actually happens in an alcoholic, what the phenomenon of craving actually is. Okay? Does that make sense to you? Okay? So, see, we see that these expressions refer to people whose reactions are very different from ours. Okay? See, so there's something going on in an alcoholic, see, that's different from what goes on to everybody else. Now, the reason we put this definition up here is so that we can understand the difference between the three kinds of drinkers. Okay? And these three words that I have underlined, if you would just keep your finger on page 20, go back to the doctor's opinion, to page XXVII. About 3/4 down the page, I asked you to underline those same three words 3 weeks ago. You see them? The sentence says, many types do not respond to what? Okay? Yeah, remember the word approach? So we've been talking about, see, what kind of an approach are we making? A spiritual approach. See, what didn't work for us? The ordinary psychological approach. See, we've come to believe that this is an illness and that the alcoholic is bodily and mentally different, see, from other people. Therefore, see, what seems to work for other people ain't going to work for an alcoholic. See? The ordinary psychological, does that seem logical to you? See? The ordinary psychological approach that seems to work for all these other folks didn't work for me. That's my experience. Okay? A lot of us raised our hands. We've been in treatment and therapy and counseling, and see what happened. Didn't work. We did not respond. Okay? We did not react favorably. See? It didn't work. Okay? See, and there's a reason it doesn't work. Okay? We do not respond. Does that make sense? So try to make that clear. All right, let's go back to page 20. Now we're going to talk about the three kinds of drinkers. Okay? We need to understand the definition of the word obsession in order to understand what they're talking about. So, moderate drinkers. What's current terminology for moderate drinker? Generally called a social drinker. Have little trouble in giving up liquor entirely if they have good what? Reason. They can take it or leave it alone. Okay? See, so a good reason is I'm going to leave you, or a good reason is they got a DUI. See, back when I was a teenager and just starting to drink, some of my friends started drinking, and they were drinking as much as I did, and they woke up with the dry heaves one morning and said, I'm never going to do that again, and never did it again. See, they stopped. See, they had a good reason. It made them sick. See? Some of the people I drank with got in trouble with the law once, maybe twice, stopped. See? They had little trouble, said, I don't want to do this. It's wrecking my life. See? And they could see that when they were 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 years old. See? Now, that never stopped me. See? Getting sick and bad consequences, and none of that ever stopped me. See? But it did stop a lot of people that I had drunk with over the years. See? So those are, see, they have little trouble giving it up if they have a good reason for it. Okay? Now, can you do that? See? Are you a moderate drinker? See? Has there been a good reason, see, by which you make a decision, then stop? See? That's not me. I'm not a social drinker. I'm not a moderate drinker. Okay? So that's the first kind of drinker that there is. Okay, then we have a certain type of hard drinker. See, now, current terminology for this out there in treatment land is stuff like chemically dependent, substance abuse, see, stuff like that. A certain type of hard drinker. He or she may have the habit. The word habit means addiction. Okay? He may have the habit badly enough to gradually impair him how? Physically and mentally. See? So this person has a gradually impaired state of mind and body. See? Gradually impaired, but not hopeless. See? He's not in a hopeless pine box situation. Okay, it may cause him to die a few years before his time. All right, see, so there are a bunch of people in the world, see, who can drink an awful lot of alcohol, see, and the alcohol does do things to their body and to their thinking, see, but they are not out of control. And you may have seen some of these kind of people, especially if you did any bar drinking. You could go to almost any bar in Albuquerque, I'm sure, in Sacramento, where I'm from. And there's always some guy sitting there, and he's got one of these baseball hats on, and his belly's out to here, and his nose is big and kind of red. He shows up at the bar at 10 o'clock in the morning, and he starts drinking shots of Kessler's with a beer back. Then he has 3 or 4 pops, you know, and he looks at his watch, and he goes, whoop. Then he goes over and he makes a phone call. He calls the office. He runs an electrical supply company or something. And they tell him, whoop, we got a problem. So he says, okay, and he hops in his truck, and he goes down, and he goes to the bank, and he makes payroll, and he does all this stuff, and takes care of business. He's back by 2:30, and he's drinking beer and Kessler's again. Okay, 5:30, he's got to go, you know, and check in all the trucks, and he takes off, and he's gone for 2 or 3 hours. 7:30, he's back in the bar doing it again. 8:30 says Maple's got dinner on the table. He gets up, he goes home, has dinner with his wife, you know, says hi to the kids, does all that kind of stuff. See, 9:30, 10 o'clock, he's back in the bar having a few nightcaps. See, he goes back home, he goes to bed, he gets up in the morning. See, he comes back to the bar, and he works out of the bar. See, now his life isn't out of control. See, but he's pounding down a lot of booze. See, he's not going to jail. He hasn't lost his wife. See, all this, you know, stuff is not going on in his life. He's just a hard drinker. See, it's a guy that can drink a lot of booze. See, but shit doesn't seem to happen when he does that. Okay, see, so he may have the habit, badly enough, to gradually impair him physically or mentally. Okay, so guys like this, see, can turn into real alcoholics, see, if they continue on, but generally what happens is they get into some kind of difficulty. See, and quite often it's medical kinds of stuff. See, so go to top of page 21, see, it says it may cause him to die a few years before his time. See, this guy could literally be drinking himself to death. Okay? But if a sufficiently strong what? Reason, see, such as ill health, falling in love, change of environment, warning of a doctor, maybe his wife says, I'm going to divorce you. See, maybe he's got to change his location, business problems, something like that. Any sufficient reason becomes operative. And where do reasons become operative? In the mind. Okay? This man or woman can also do one of two things. Number one, stop. Number two, moderate. Okay? Go from the kind of drinking he was doing to a couple of cocktails with dinner. Okay? Although he may find it difficult and troublesome and may even need medical attention. Okay? Might have to go through a treatment program. Okay? So we get some of these kind of folks in AA. See? And these are people, who all they have to do is put the plug in the jug and sit in a meeting, and they are able to stay sober that way. See? They don't need to work the steps. They don't need spiritual help. See? They aren't powerless over alcohol. See? But they may believe that they are real alcoholics. This can get kind of confusing when you're new, so it's very important that we all understand, what's the difference between the kinds of drinkers that there are and where we fit in. And once you understand that, then some of the things you hear in meetings will make more sense to you. Okay, so this guy, can have a serious drinking problem. And if this guy or a woman continues, there's always the possibility that they will become a real alcoholic somewhere along the line. Some of us are real alcoholics the day we take our first drink. Some of us develop it, as you'll see. Okay, so what stopped the hard drinker? A reason, a sufficient reason. So the hard drinker did respond to reason. The moderate drinker did respond to reason. See? But there is a kind of drinker who does not respond to reason of any kind. See? Medical, psychiatric, psychological, love, emotions, family, any kind of reason. See? Ill health, falling in love, change of environment, warning of the doctor are insufficient to stop me from drinking. All of those have happened. See? Falling out of love has happened. Insufficient. See? No matter what people said to me, I kept drinking. See? My wife said we're going to get a divorce. Great. See? Boss said you can't work here anymore. Okay, good. Landlord threw me out. Couldn't pay the rent. Okay. See? Out of work 5 years. Okay. See? I just kept drinking. See? I did not respond, see, to anything, any change in circumstances, any reason that came my way. See? I just continued to drink. See? My dad's been in AA. See? At the time I came to AA, he had 30 years sobriety. See? They call him the Pope over in California. He's been around so long. See? He tried, to carry the message to me a few times. This guy does not respond. Kept doing it. Okay, so start to look at your own experience. Okay, so now we're going to look at the description of the real alcoholic. Okay, what about the real alcoholic? Okay, he or she, if you are a she, may start off as a moderate drinker. Okay, see, not all of us, are out of control when we start drinking. See, so you may have been able to moderate or control your drinking, early on in your drinking career. See, so he may do that. See, but what's the opposite of he may? He may not. All right. So I look at my own experience back when I was a kid. See, I may not have. See, I was out of control from the get-go. See, so look at your own experience. See, so a real alcoholic may be a moderate drinker to begin with, and may not. Okay? And then it says he may or may not become a continuous hard drinker. See, a lot of us have that picture in our mind that if I'm not a chronic, all day, every day, daily kind of drinker, then I'm not an alcoholic. What does this say? He may or may not be that. See, that isn't necessary. See, periodic drinkers, they have a lot of trouble understanding this. See, people who go on binges 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times a year, see, and don't drink in between. So you think that those in-between points mean they're not a real alcoholic. See, that's not true. The periodic drinking is alcoholic drinking. Does that make sense? Got any periodic drinkers in here? Anybody? Okay. Now, are you open-minded to that? See, you may be just as alcoholic as a guy like me who drank every day. Okay. See, it takes an open mind. That's good. Okay, so he may start off as a moderate drinker. He may or may not become a continuous hard drinker. So that's the daily kind of guy. But at some stage of his drinking career, he begins. See, now a lot of us, we learn about the phenomenon of craving, and we start saying, well, it doesn't happen to me every time. Okay, therefore I'm not a real alcoholic. See, but what does the word begins mean? Starts. See, begins to lose all control of his liquor consumption when? Once he starts to drink. So all you got to know, see, is have you begun, see, to experience the allergy in your life. If you have begun, you will what? Continue. If it has begun. At some stage. So you got to look and see at what stage you had begun to show loss of control while you drink. See, this is the allergy. See, the moderate drinker doesn't have the allergy, and the hard drinker doesn't have the allergy. See? But the real alcoholic does. See? And this is confusing to a lot of us because we run into people, see, who drank a hell of a lot more than we did who aren't real alcoholics. Okay? Some of us, especially when we're real young, see, we don't see that, see, so you got to have an open mind. Okay, so let's read it again. He may start off as a moderate drinker, he may or may not become a continuous hard drinker, but at some stage of his or her drinking career, he begins to lose all control of his liquor consumption once he starts to drink. That's the allergy kicking in. All you got to do is ask yourself, have I shown any signs of that? See? And if so, when did that start? Does this apply to me? This means I'm not a moderate drinker and I'm not a hard drinker. See? This is not true of those two types of drinkers. Okay, here's the fellow or lady who has been puzzling you. Now, actually, it's the hard drinker who has always puzzled the hell out of me. But here's the fellow who's been puzzling you, especially in his lack of control. He does absurd, incredible, and tragic things while drinking. Does anybody in here do anything that's absurd, incredible, or tragic when you drink? They've shown any signs of that during the well-known stages of a spree. See, hard drinkers don't do that. See, you ever noticed if you've been a bar drinker, you know how some of those people, they just kind of sit there and they slam it down. See, I start drinking and, I want to put 96 quarters in the jukebox and get in a fight, all of that. See, this stuff starts happening. I want a boogie. I get a case of happy feet. I become Albert Einstein and John Wayne, and see, all this stuff starts going on. Okay, so look at your own experience. Okay, it says he's a real Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Okay, now this one confused me a little bit because, see, Mr. Hyde that appeared when I drank wasn't always the same guy. All right, see, sometimes when I start drinking, see, I may be in a good mood when I start drinking, and I may end up violent and loudmouth and kind of vicious, see, once I start drinking. I may be in a happy mood when I start drinking and become depressed. See? I may be angry when I start drinking, and once I start drinking, I become emotional and weepy. See? There were a number of different kinds of Mr. Hyde that would appear when I drank. See? But I always did experience personality changes. See? And weird stuff would go on with me. Is anybody done any research on alcohol? Does everybody know it's a narcotic and it's a depressant? See? It's a drug, it's a narcotic, it's a depressant. See? And I'd drink it and I'd get high and be raring to go. See? I didn't feel soporific, sleepy, and depressed, tranquil when I drank. See, it's totally opposite reaction than what science says is supposed to happen when you drink would happen to me sometimes. See, it's really amazing. See, so you might look and see if you got any of those kind of puzzling little things in your life, see, that show you have a different reaction to alcohol. Okay, it's a real Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So, look at your own experience. See, do you experience personality changes when you drink alcohol, when you do drugs? Okay, he's seldom mildly intoxicated. He's always more or less insanely drunk. All right, let me show you my experience with mild intoxication.